Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today we're going to be looking at a big week in terms of earnings as well as some key economic data. To start with, I am here on TD Ameritrade's website, and we're going to be highlighting some of the key earnings that are going to be announcing this week. The first of which that I'm going to call out are going to be on Tuesday, and we've got quite a few big ones. Of course, Microsoft and Google-Alphabet are going to be the big ones that I want to watch, primarily to get an idea of what's happening in the ad spend space from Google, as well as if a return to the office environment has been putting downward pressure on things like Microsoft's suite of products, primarily Microsoft Teams and Outlook. Those are going to be some of the key ones that I want to watch there. The other one that should be somewhat painful that I'd like to see would be UPS. So UPS is going to be announcing earnings, and these are through or are announced by market cap here on the screen. But UPS is also going to be announcing earnings, and I think that that's going to be a good indicator of movement in terms of deliveries throughout this calendar year and what they are going to be forecasting. This is following some ugly predictions from FedEx earlier this year, about a month ago. The other companies that we're going to watch are going to include Visa, which has continued to be a great indicator in terms of consumer spending. They have continued to point that the consumer is strong. Bank of America last week said that their consumers were strong, so I'm going to be looking to see if Visa is A, continuing to see spending increase, and B, if they're going to continue to benefit from it. And the big thing to watch for a number of these companies is going to continue to be the pricing power that they possess. Is the consumer weathering these higher prices? And on a go-forward basis, what's their expectation in terms of the forecasted profitability? That's going to be the key thing to watch. Q3 earnings should continue to prove okay. I think the forecast is what could negatively impact them. Going forward outside of that, we also have Coke, which again should be a repeat of the Pepsi earnings. Pepsi did have pretty strong earnings. You saw that the consumer, for the most part, ate their price hikes and didn't have too many concerns. Continuing off that, we can go into Wednesday's earnings, where, as you can see, we have a number of the big companies. Again, this week has more than 20% of total SPX earnings are going to be announced. The ones I'm going to be watching obviously include Apple. They've had a number of negative forecasts. They've continued to see tightening demand on things such as their iPhone, so we're going to be watching that. Meta has been a painful experience this calendar year. You can see on the 1-year chart they have lost more than 2/3 of their market capitalization. And we're going to continue to see what is the potential TAM, or what's the expectation surrounding their Oculus products and the metaverse. Going outside of that, something else that I would announce is that we've got Boeing as well as Ford are going to be announcing on Wednesday as well. Ford being one of the biggest or largest auto manufacturers in the world, and particularly here in the United States. We've seen car prices decline. I'm interested to see what is the expectation associated with their forecast. How's that impacting the company on a go-forward basis? And obviously, Boeing is going to be, or what we'll be watching from Boeing, because they've continued to decline quite heavily, is what's the expectation from them regarding their plane orders and their forecasted plane earnings. Outside of that, because those are the largest ones that I'm watching, I do want to have special shout outs for Amazon and MasterCard. MasterCard being a repeat of what we expect to see from Visa. And Amazon's always going to be another big one. Primarily going to be watching not necessarily the delivery side, but Amazon Web Services. I'd like to see how that continues to perform for the remainder of this year. And other notable call outs include McDonald's, which again is good from a hiring perspective to call out, as well as Shopify from the software side. So they are in here as well. So going to be watching them. And then lastly, on Friday, two of the larger companies that I watch are going to be Exxon as well as AbbVie. Those two right here, both of which pay a healthy dividend. Exxon has been one of the key holdings throughout this calendar year, and AbbVie has been an actual tank of a stock with a solid dividend. We did sell this last week, so I'm interested to see what happens from a pricing perspective and how that's going to impact the stock on a going forward basis, especially surrounding their dividend. And the last thing that I want to call out, because this earnings week is going to be crazy, is that we also have some key economic indicators that we're going to be looking at. The first of which is going to be GDP. I'm going to showcase the GDP forecast that's provided to us by our friends at the Atlanta Federal Reserve. So what you see on the screen is the historical forecast from GDP Now, which is the Atlanta Fed tool, which is showcasing that we are expecting a large increase in GDP. Now, some of this is coming from some of the recent employment data as well as home sales. I'm interested to see how this impacts because I don't believe that we're actually producing this much year over year to warrant this large of an increase. 3%, this is a multi-trillion-dollar economy. However, I do think that it's going to be positive. I'm not expecting a third quarter of declining GDP in a row. So we do have this expectation. The past 2 quarters have been around -2 and around -1%, which is the technical definition of a recession. So we will be watching this data because I think that if it continues to come in positive, it will point to higher rate hikes, which could negatively impact the stock market. So this is what we'll be watching, and this is just part of a exciting week. So we're going to also see new home sales and price consumer expenditure data on Friday, home sales on Wednesday. So we've got a ton of information coming on. It's going to be a fun one to watch. If you want to chat with us about it, I do have a Discord that's free to join, linked in the description down below. Look forward to chatting with everyone here throughout all this fun and exciting content.